You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
All right, folks, good evening and happy Tuesday. I am one half of the crew, Mr. Rick Robinson. She is the other half of the crew, Miss Jen Homestead. We're live right now on KLRNradio.com, and you are listening to Jen and Rick. Due to technical issues and the fact that I'm actually fighting a migraine, I'm only doing one show tonight. Jen only does one show, so can't really say we. But yeah, in between being back at work, dealing with all kinds of interesting issues that I can't really, well, some of you know, but I can't really talk about it too much on the air. Let's just say that the teacher walkout has affected me in some weird ways, because the places that I work are kind of that I work for are kind of walking out in solidarity with them. So it's making all of our lives so much better where I spend my time during the day job. So I have been off work for a week. I come back to a complete and total Charlie Foxtrot. We have been nailed from bell to bell for the last 2 days. And to top everything else off, I'm in a room with fluorescent lighting while fighting a light-sensitive migraine. So because I didn't do a show last night, and because I love every single one of you who take the time to listen, I'm doing at least one tonight, but I likely will not be able to do the other. But we'll get at least 3 in for America Off the Rails, because I'm going to do an extra one Friday night when I'm done with Dan. So you guys will only kind of be missing one day. And I know I didn't do very many of them last week because I was on vacation, and every time I turned around, the wife was like, hey, we have people coming over because we're on vacation. And I'm like, hey, I have radio I'm supposed to do. She's like, sucks to be you. But that's the joys of being on vacation and having a wife. All right, so anyway, so how are you now that I've kind of given everybody the crazy rundown and manic world that I live in right now today?
Well, I'm pretty good. I would like to be addressed by my official title now that it has been released to the world. I'm not quite sure who leaked it, but it
I forgot. I forgot that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that Jenny is the abbreviation for JandR, the Destroyer, Queen of all darkness, Conqueror of Earth. And I've decided to embrace that. You know, we've done a really good, all the Jennies of the world, we've done really good job of keeping this under wraps and not demanding that mere humans call us by our official titles, and also to not let them know that we were the Destroyers, Queen of all darknesses, and Conquerors of the Earth. But cat's out of the bag, so, you know, from here on out, I'm Destroyer, Queen, it's fine. Anything that denotes my royalty.
Yes, Your Highness.
Oh my gosh, that thing is so funny. If y'all don't know what we're talking about, there's a thing about female name abbreviations, and go look at my Twitter. It's one of like the first things on my TL. But it starts out normal, and then it gets more and more ridiculous. And the last one is Jenny, the JandR, the Destroyer, Queen of all darkness, Conqueror of Earth. And it made me laugh so hard. One of my best friends sent it to me and was like, "This sounds about right." And I was like, "Oh man."
So, just for the record, yours makes sense. The one that threw me off was the one that says Becky is an abbreviation for Rebecky. I was like, what the heck? Why? I'm so good. What are you talking about?
I think it's because, like, I had some friends named Rebecca and Becky in school, and, like, people would say Rebecky, and I think it was first, like, being cute, and then later was kind of, like, especially in some place like Texas, like, okay, Rebecky, like, make fun of them like they're hillbillies. And then it just gets even crazier, though. Like, Beth, a lizard Beth, instead of Elizabeth.
I don't even think I caught that.
Kind of funny.
So that's kind of weird.
Emma was Emmageddon. And I guess they're just like taking off of some like random things that people normally make fun of. People's names but Stephanie, they said Steph Horny, and when I was growing up, it was always Steph on me. And then Amber was Amberger with cheese, and I knew a girl named Amber who we called the Amberger Burglar. So that makes sense. But the Jenny one is just hilarious. I mean, it just goes completely off the rails.
Yeah, we actually had a friend, or I had a friend that her name was Amber, and I shortened it. I called her the Ambergler. So anyway, too many syllables the other way. But anyway, all right. So what do you want to talk about first? Because there's no shortage of craziness to talk about. So,
first I think I want to talk about how Twitter is just tightening down even more. I first want to talk about Twitter actually, and how it's just tightening up even more and more, and it's going to become an unusable space because they are now flagging words. And it's not that they have like a rove of people that are going around trying to search TLs to find these words and then suspend these people. But if someone happens to report you because they're mad at you over an argument or they're trolling you for some reason, there's a lot of ongoing rivalries, and then even some actual, criminality, stalker situations happening on Twitter. And then when they get angry, they can go through your timeline and find keywords and then report those tweets. And some people are getting locked for, half a day, a week, whatever, for some of them tweets dating back to like 2012, 2014. And it seems to be across the board. It doesn't seem to be conservative aimed. This seems to be like a new algorithm that's there that when someone does report it, and I don't know if it takes one report or if it takes 10 reports, but it does seem to do an auto lock thing. It's not, and it just gives you the option to delete the tweet if you want to get back on Twitter. Otherwise, you're not. And there's no appeal. There's nothing like that. And it's not a suspension. It's just a lock. But it can be over. Unfortunately, like I know someone who actually was told that they had to delete the tweet. You're an idiot. So we're in a place now where Twitter labels insults that are just even like grade school level insults as hate speech and hateful behavior towards another human being.
Yeah, well, I mean, is it any surprise? I mean, look at what's going on with Facebook, and we all know that Twitter's becoming the new Facebook. Man.
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry. It broke up a little bit.
That's all right. I said, is it any surprise that they've kind of become a Gestapo state? I mean, everybody's been saying that Twitter's becoming the new Facebook, and look what's happening with Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what gets me, though, is that it's not so much about, like, actual hateful things. It's, like, hateful conduct. And so the point is, though, is that some of what's happened, and something that I had to delete a tweet over after I got in the whole Twitter brothel mess, which also hashtag that, go look up that craziness, where someone's making wild accusations against a friend. I think it's a joke at first. So I chime in and I'm like, oh, really? Like she's doing that? And, they went back and reported some tweets after it kind of went on and on and on. They went back and reported some tweets. And one of the tweets that I got, I had to delete. And I didn't get locked out of my account. Like, I mean, when I logged in, it showed me, go to your email. I went to my email. The email was there. I deleted the tweet and I wasn't locked anymore at all. I did not get put in timeout at all. But the tweet that I had to delete was me quote tweeting someone else who called me a bad name. And I said, oh, okay, so you can call me a C word, but I'm the one that hates women? ? So I wasn't even calling anyone that. I was referring to that they called me that. And I had to delete that tweet because they're not looking at context. It's just the words. And the words are triggering, an auto lock. And so that's how that's all happening. So you may not ever have any problems. You may cuss away and you may call people all sorts of names. And as long as no one reports you or no one's mad at you about it and doesn't think they need to report you, then, or, in a vindictive manner, then you may never have an issue, you may never get locked. So I'm not saying that Twitter is just like scrolling for words and suspending people, but just be aware that if you're in arguments with someone or if someone has, something out for you. You might want to go scrub those TL you say in future arguments, because they are basically letting anything be reportable now that is remotely negative. And that's just going to make it, like I said, an unusable space.
Well, that's why we have folks that I'm in groups with. They keep sending me these links for this new thing called MeWe or something. I've never heard of it before. But yeah, so.
Yeah, MeWe. And I actually really like it. I like the platform and how they have it set up and everything. The only problem is that it's more like a Facebook. You only see the people that you're friends with. It doesn't have ads. It doesn't have like news stories that are like interjecting into your feed. You only see the people that you're friends with that you want to see. So it's not going to, it can't replace something like Twitter where you can go see what people that have made their profiles public, what they want to see and what they're going to do. Like there's no way to search for really much of that unless you're just in a group. But there are a lot of groups that you can get into, and some of them are political. So you can go about that there a little bit, posting back and forth. But it's much more like a Facebook oriented. But I do think that it's a good option to have a backup like that for you and your Twitter friends, or even Facebook friends, that, when the hammer eventually drops on some of you, that you can still stay in contact if you're not comfortable giving out personal information and giving out phone numbers. You have a place where you can meet and connect and still, kind of carry on with each other a little bit, which I think is really important to some of the people who have been suspended, is that's what they get the most upset about, is all those people that they interact with daily and they build these relationships with, that now all of a sudden they can't get in touch with, and they don't, and they miss out on interacting with. So I think, it doesn't have to be that platform, but I think it's always good to have another one. This is why a lot of people ran to Gab whenever that first opened up, and woof, what a nightmare that is.
And then Gab got very dark and very scary. It's basically all right Twitter. But yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea.
Woohoo! I was actually going to.
I am the conqueror. I am the conqueror of Earth, after all.
Oh, this is true. I actually forgot about that when I said it. I was actually. I have the Pinky and the Brain sound clip buried on my soundboard somewhere, but I can't find it. So I was going to try to play that, and it didn't work out. So I'm sad. But anyway, so yeah, Zucker Nerd's been getting grilled on Capitol Hill all day. Basically, flat out admitted that Silicon Valley is a very leftist-leaning area. Oh my God, I'm so shocked.
Yeah.
That basically they have all these things in place so people can discuss things privately without fear of retribution, but say the wrong thing on Facebook and they're going to make you not be able to have an account. So they have all these things in place for like employees and stuff to be able to air grievances and discuss things with each other, but they don't want the same thing to happen on their platform. I was confused. I thought that was kind of the whole point of Facebook.
Yeah. I just don't even understand anymore. Like, what is even going on over there where they think that this is even going to be... I mean, I guess if they just want it to be left as paradise, but that when this first started out in a capitalistic manner, that absolutely that's not just what they wanted. They wanted to get any and everybody they could to make as much money as they could. Maybe he's made enough now, so he doesn't care anymore.
Well, here's the scary thing. So, and now if you guys have been living under a rock, you may not know this, but I actually completely pulled Facebook off of my phone yesterday because I have an Android phone. And I started reading about all the things that Google and Facebook can do because somehow they've sort of partnered with each other. If you have an Android phone, they have access to your text messages. They can go through them whenever they choose to. They can access your call logs. They can actually monitor your phone calls through the Facebook app. I'm done. I'll keep it on my computer until it goes away and becomes MySpace version 3.1. But other than that, I'm not ever putting it on my phone ever again. I have people that are mad at me right now because they're like, the only way I have to talk to you is Facebook. I'm like, yeah, well, if I liked you more, you'd have my phone number. But, there's that.
Yeah, it is really crazy. I had heard a bunch of stuff about the fine print. It's like when smart TVs, after they'd been in circulation for several years, and then people realized, like, oh, the smart TV can actually, even if it's off, can pick up on things from you all the time. And not every brand does it or anything like that. And most of them are if it's, connected to the internet, but that was also a really freaky thing. So just in my house, you're listening to my conversations.
That reminds me of that old joke when Alexa first came out. I asked Alexa if she works for the CIA. I laughed. My wife laughed. Alexa laughed. I shot Alexa.
Well, it just reminds me, are we going to end up, I feel like we're heading the direction of like one of those, if there was a show that was like a Disney Channel movie, and I can't remember what it was called now, but they had like a smart house, and it was like way before the times of smart houses. It was like a futuristic house, and then eventually like the robot that like ran the house, the AI like home system, got like jealous and got possessive and just like too much in control. They'd given her too much control, and so she like locks all the windows, locks all the doors, like doesn't let anybody leave, makes them do the things she wants them to do. And I'm like, is that where this is all going?
Skynet lives. That's all I'm going to say.
Because she could hear every conversation they had, so she threw it back at them later, and they're like, wait, you were listening to that? And she's like, I'm everywhere. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of Google and Facebook and all of that right now. It's kind of creepy.
The scary thing is there's actually been movies about that for a long time. The first one that I remember that was like that, it was way back in like the 80s when computers were just becoming like a household thing. And it was just nerdy guy that had all these different things, and he went and he plugged all these different things into his appliances to give the computer control of it, and it had a voice interface. And by the end of the movie, the house pretty much killed him. That's what we're heading towards. Just saying. Because we already have self-driving cars, and apparently self-driving cars don't know to stop for people on bicycles. Uh-oh. I've either put her to sleep or we're having a connection issue. Is she still here?
No, I thought I was unmuted, and I wasn't. Oh, that seems like a little bit of a snafu there. That they don't stop for bicycles. They don't recognize that.
So yeah, we have all these like really expensive car companies now that make like the Teslas and stuff that are designing cabins where the seats in the front of the car actually face away from the front windscreen so that you can talk to the people in the back seat. This is how comfortable people are with computers driving them around everywhere. But I'm serious. Go look it up. Google self-driving car runs over man on bicycle. It'll pull straight up for you. It actually happened. I believe it was in California in one of their test bed areas. The guy on the bicycle wasn't enough, or didn't put off enough of a reflective profile for the car to realize that there was something in the way. So it just flat out just said bink, thump thump. The wheels on the smart car go squish squish squish. Oh, sorry.
Wow, that is really pretty crazy.
But yeah, we have, and as much as I actually have toyed with the idea of getting an Alexa now that you can do all these cool things with it. Like, for those of you that have an Alexa, if you like to listen to us on Spreaker, you can actually say, Alexa, enable Spreaker skill, and then tell it what Spreaker show you want to go listen to, and it will go find it for you. But with everything else that's going on, I don't want one anymore. I'm kind of over it now. And for a guy that grew up watching things like Star Trek and always imagined the days that we would be able to talk to a computer and tell it what we wanted to do and it would do it, this is what I've always wanted. And now they have terrified me to the point where I no longer want it. I'm sad.
Yeah,
I'm
that does seem to be kind of like how we are. I mean, it's just like, wait, this is getting too crazy. It's just too crazy now. And they're able to gather way too much from us for without real permission. I mean, yeah, okay, it's your permission because you signed up for it when you bought the smart TV. Really, those TVs come with a 180-page booklet. You expect that people are going to read all of that and really know that they're signing up to have their every word listened to and then transmitted into data that can be sold off to companies? That's absolute BS, and the reasoning behind it, I mean, it's just disgusting.
This is why my smart TV has its wireless disabled, and I don't have it connected to Ethernet.
Yeah, I mean, that's smart. That is smart.
However, I still have a Dish Network receiver, so I'm pretty sure since it's connected to a network, it's probably ratting me out every day.
Honestly, I've just kind of given in. I'm like, it's going to be impossible for me to, at this point, they've got what they want. They got the goods. And I'm not that I'm like opting for them to get my stuff, but I'm not exactly like freaking out over every little thing because I kind of figure they already have it.
The thing about it is I can honestly see this happening in one of those labs in Facebook, all those networking trolls that never see the light of day. They've got greasy hair, pimples on their faces. They're like, hey man, with this app we can get people's text messages. We can see all their sexy pictures they're sending to each other. Yay! Just saying.
Oh my gosh. I know. And that's why I do tell people, my advice for that, there was like the thing trending the other day on Facebook and Twitter was like 5-word advice for teens. And mine was nude selfies, nude pics, not even once. And then a bunch of people responded were like, oh, yeah, for teenagers, but I mean adults. And I'm like, hey, if you're cool with that, like possibly getting to every person that you've ever known, then go for it, sure. And I don't just mean because the person will release it, which is also everyone I've ever known that has had some sort of nudes exposed, and even if they weren't exposed online, but like, several friends, that got passed on to several friends or something, even if it was like 2 years after they took them and it was after the breakup, they always think that the person that they sent them to would never betray them. And it happens every dang time. I swear. It's like, it may not be right away. It might be years and years later, but eventually that person doesn't care that much anymore, and they show them to someone who might screen cap it and send it to someone else or whatever. And then worst case scenario is it ends up on one of those really icky sites on the internet. And then even more than that, they can see them. Like, those are going to a cloud. Even if you have your cloud turned off, they're going to some cloud. I promise you, when it got transferred and you sent it over the wires through Verizon or AT&T or whoever else, it got captured, even if you don't have it set to the cloud and you deleted it off your phone. And then whoever received it probably is backing up to a computer or a cloud. And even if they delete it, it still stays somewhere in the cyberverse. So my advice, yes, it was to teens because it's one of the easiest ways to be a trap that they fall into that can just devastate their lives so young, and it's just humiliating and upsetting and all of that. And not to mention that now they can bring charges for child porn, depending on how old they are, and distribution of it. But beyond that, it's just like, I mean, if you're cool with that being somewhere forever and ever and ever, and that every single person you've ever met could possibly see it, then sure, make that choice. I'm not willing to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to find a way to do it in your little 5-word game that everybody was playing the other day. But just remember, folks, what goes out on the internet stays on the internet. It never actually goes away, ever. No matter how much they tell you that it does, it never goes away. That's like for those of you...
I mean, you might be able to get it removed from certain places, but I mean, there is a corner somewhere where the data's still there.
And apparently some Facebook troll is looking at all of your nude pictures, so enjoy that. Just saying.
Yeah, have fun with it.
Yeah. So I meant to ask you this a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't yet. Have you checked out the relaunch of Roseanne? I don't remember if we've talked about that yet.
No, so I actually have not gotten to watch it yet. I've got it set. It's on my DVR, and I just haven't had a chance with other things going on to watch it yet. But I have thoroughly enjoyed the meltdown.
The funny thing is, you see all the uber right leaning people are like, "Oh, this is great. Roseanne's a Trump supporter," and then you have all the uber leftist folks. They're like, the stupid righties don't even realize that she's slamming them on half the things that she's talking about. And I'm like, no, you don't really understand that. Roseanne, while she is a Trump supporter and has some conservative ideas, she's also pretty fond of a lot of socialist ideas. She's kind of just a little bit of everything.
But I'm like, this to me is like, when I first heard that this was the case, I was like, well, duh. I mean, anybody that follows her on social media would assume that she would have her. And not only that, but did you not know her character? I mean, her character was very Midwest and set in the ways and like old school and talking crap. I mean, it's not like she like disowned her kids if they had certain things like they weren't uppity at all, but they were very like, she was very like annoyed with anything that they did that was non-conventional. So it just lends to the character, and then also knowing Roseanne herself, who, by the way, this is supposed to be her show, that it made absolutely perfect sense to me. I couldn't see how it could actually go any other way than to have her be a Trump supporter.
I just think it's funny that everybody's having this meltdown about it. I mean, because Roseanne's the thing that nobody really has ever understood about Roseanne, even with as much money as she has in between her comedy bits and the TV show the first time and now this one, she's always been blue collar. I mean, that's like, I know people that have seen John Goodman when he's walking around because I have friends that live in New York City, and apparently John Goodman either lives there or spends a lot of time there. And they're like, dude, I will see him walking down the street and you wouldn't believe it. He dresses like Dan Connor in real life. So no, I would believe it, because that's kind of they were kind of playing themselves on TV and didn't let anybody understand that they were really playing themselves on TV. That's how they got away with it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what that was part of the charm of the show. It was the part of the cringiness of the show, but also part of the charm of the show. And it's what made those characters work so well. It's what made that show work so well, was because there was at least a semblance of the truth reflected in there, of who they are reflected in their acting there. And just ask anyone that's in the industry. So often, actors' best roles or best characters that they just really grasp and play, it has less to do with their actual skills and their education and their studying of the of the subject and all of that, but and more to do with being able to tap into part of their actual self. And that's when just these dynamic, amazing performances come out. And that's not across the board every time, but that often is the case. And so it's not surprising.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of play off of what you just said, I mean, it is true. I mean, the characters that actors portray the most and they do the best job at are the ones where they can actually put a piece of themselves in there, because it lends credence to what they're saying and how they're behaving, because they actually can relate to it more when they can find a way to relate to the character. That's one of the reasons why a lot of like the Rocky movies and stuff. I mean, I'm not saying Sylvester Stallone was the dynamite boxer, but if you go back and you read some of the stuff from when he was a kid, that was kind of what he wanted to do when he was a kid. So he found a way to do that without ever actually having to do that. So he had found a way to write screenplays that allowed him to live out a childhood fantasy, and that was his way of relating to the character. And that's one of the reasons why those movies were as popular as they were. Even if, it's never been highbrow type movies, but it was a big part of my childhood was watching those movies. Even look at Tim Allen and his success. Okay, look at his the incredible run of Home Improvement. Then he did some other like silly movies, including like the Santa Claus trilogy, where he's just jovial and kind of goofy and a little bit of a smart aleck and all of that kind of thing. Just very similar, different character, but very similar in a lot of traits to his Home Improvement. Then he does Last Man Standing, and it's incredibly successful. And everyone's still kind of head scratching as to why they got booted. And part of it was because they definitely were portraying. I mean, he used the words conservative, he used the words Republican quite often throughout the run of that show. And so, but this career that he built for himself. So much tapped into his actual persona, and it made him so likable and relatable and successful. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the scary thing, and that was honestly, I think everybody was really surprised when the relaunch of Roseanne happened, and it was like the most watched debut in like television history, because there were so many people that tuned in for it. And everybody's like, I don't understand it. And everybody in middle America is going, you guys have finally put somebody on TV that I can relate to. That was one of the things, growing up in that type of a household, I remember, even though I remember thinking this is something my parents would do, I remember one of the original episodes where they were joking about trying to find a way to come up with some extra money to get through for the next couple of weeks until Dan got paid again. And she's like, it's easy. We take the electric bill and we send it to the water company. We take the water bill, we send it to the electric company. And then for the gas bill, we forget to sign the check. I was like, that is so something my family would have done back then. And I was like, and I was thinking about it before the show relaunched, and I'm like, some of that stuff you can't really do anymore because, I mean, it's all really done online now. The funny thing is, in the very first episode, they kind of found a way to connect with you that way again, but it had to do with Obamacare. So since you haven't watched it yet, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it was pretty funny.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, you know, it's just it, and I only say that because my wife and I just watched. I think it was the 4th episode tonight. There was like this whole thing for like 5 minutes where I was laughing so hard, and my wife was like, "What are you laughing at?" I'm like, "That's so us." She's like, "You're not funny." I was like, yes, but that is so us.
That's funny.
But yeah, so anyway, so we've talked about Facebook, we've talked about Twitter. Talked about Zucker-Nerd at least a little bit. And, you know, I'm not... Now, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, when I talked about removing the app, it's not necessarily because I fault Zucker-Nerd for finding a way to make money off of an idea that apparently he came up with when he was drunk in college. But I don't like some of the things that they've done with some of that technology in partnership with their apps and everything else. But let's not forget, folks, it's free. You don't have to pay to use it. You don't have to use it. And nobody tells you to take all these stupid quizzes and everything else that they're secretly using to data mine you. But so it's I don't really necessarily have an issue so much with Facebook as I do with finding out what it is that Facebook and Google have come together to be able to do if you have an Android phone. The idea of people going through my entire text message catalog kind of concerns me. I mean, I'm a security nut, so I don't have a text message catalog. I'm just going to tell you, I pretty much clear that stuff out about once a week anyway. But the fact that they I don't know, being somebody who was very security conscious for nearly 20 years, I just, I don't know. I feel like I need to take a shower every time I talk about it. I'm like, and I don't even do anything crazy like naked pictures. Thank God for everybody else. Although I should now, just to make some Facebook troll throw up somewhere.
Oh, whatever. No, yeah, it's also weird. I mean, like you said, I mean, it's their business. I think that it can get into some sticky situations where there could be arguments that there are some legal issues with some of it. I understand that it says in all the fine print or whatever, but at some point, some judge is going to go, you have to do more than the fine print. You have to put out a post that easily, you know, in plain English tells people what they're allowing by being a part of this service. And that's happened with other things in the past. It doesn't have to happen because they are legally covered in a lot of ways. But like I said, it does get a little iffy, and sometimes you will come across someone who will kind of put their feet to the fire on something like that, knowing that it's kind of purposely manipulating and duping people, or just, you know, having them walk into it unknowingly. But now that there's so much coverage, but I just don't see it really having that much of an effect on who are already pretty regular users. I don't see it having an effect on them stopping being regular users. I think I see it being people that are not on as much, or use it for very specific purposes, being like, forget this, pack up shop, go somewhere else. I think that's more likely what they do with that. You know, and I'm sharing those that's updating his job statuses and talking crap to his friends about the local sports team. I just don't see them leaving the platform over this kind of thing.
Yeah, and they probably won't. All right, so a little bit of breaking news. Apparently, the White House has announced they're going to remove Chad from the travel ban. That'll be a nice change from my friend Chad Alexander. Next time he won't have to drive to DC, he can fly.
Yeah, I was going to say Chad Felix Green too. I'm really glad that they're not going to ban a conservative gay Jew any longer. That's really great to hear. How progressive.
Yeah, so for those of you rolling your eyes right now, yes, we're aware it's Chad the Country, but it's still funny because they didn't specify it. Everybody's been making jokes about it for the last several hours. I actually tagged Chad in it. I was like, hey, Chad, what'd you get banned for? He's like, my words. Like, well, right side, at least you don't have to drive to DC next time you gotta go. And he's just like, yeah, whatever. Oh, yeah. I'm still jealous. His wife was actually part of the Trump campaign team. She was regional director for one of the campaign groups, and she was actually she was director of his largest regional area. He actually got to go to one of the 400 White House Christmas parties. I was really jealous. Jerk.
Yeah, that actually is really cool. I remember when you first introduced him to us, and he said a few things like that, and I was just like, "Holy cow, that is really crazy." He's like, "Yeah, my wife actually did, and this, and this, and this," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh,
yeah,
she is." I mean, wow. Just kudos to her in that respect.
He does radio, so he doesn't brag about himself that much, but he's also a political consultant. He just does more local stuff. He's got ins with most of the gubernatorial candidates right now. He's actually the only time that I was aware that he's ever done anything on the national level, he was actually J.C. Watt's campaign director.
Wow.
Yeah, he was I'm not sure if he was actually the director or one of the assistant directors, but he was in his 20s at the time because he's about my age.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
Well, good for them. Good for that little political power couple.
I know, right? But anyway.
Don't follow the lead of the Clintons. That's my main advice.
Yeah.
Do not.
Well, I mean, again, they could, but I wouldn't.
I don't advise it. You might get some satisfaction out of parts of it, but overall, it's going to be one big choo-choo.
So I don't do this that often, but we didn't take a commercial break, so I'm going to plug KOKC real quick. For those of you that have been checking out the station lately, Todd Tucker is actually going to have, and I can't think of the guy's name right now. I was going to have it jotted down so I could remember. But tomorrow, I believe it, around 8 o'clock Eastern, he's actually going to have someone who has reportedly had physical relations with President Barack Obama, who happens to be of the male persuasion. So I'm actually going to have to figure that out and see how legit that is, because that just seemed kind of weird to me. Everybody jokes about it, but I'm just like, really? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah. I'm like, everybody jokes about it, but I just never really seriously thought about it. That would be creepy if that actually really did happen. But apparently, in certain circles, he's actually known as Bathhouse Barry, so that should tell you something. No comment. Pretty much. So anyway, since we didn't take a break, we have 9 minutes to kill. What do you want to talk about next?
Let's talk about the crazy lady who was so into dissecting whether or not Sarah Sanders made that pie at Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever it was, and tried to say it couldn't possibly have been her and all this BS. There was the one journalist that reported on it and went really cuckoo over it. I was like, hey, lady, please, can we get her the Xanax or a Valium or something? I think she needs to lie down. She's really, really, really invested in this pie of Sarah Sanders, and it's kind of disturbing. But anyway, she now today has, I wouldn't say topped it, but she's definitely come close with asking Sarah today if President Trump has considered resigning.
Well, they can't help themselves right now because, that's my former boss that I've told you guys about before who came by and made a joke to me today. She said, you know what MAGA stands for now, right? And I was like, I really don't know because I don't use the phrase. And she's like, my attorney got arrested. I'm like, actually, no, he didn't get arrested, but that's okay.
Good one. You're so clever. Pat yourself on the back. No, and I just think, but it's just, think about how apoplectic the media and the left would be if someone from Fox News during Fast and Furious or Solyndra or pick your dang Benghazi, pick your dang scandal, whatever it was. I know they try to claim they're scandalous. It's complete BS. But pick your situation that got dicey. And if a guy from Fox News had stood there and said to the press secretary, Josh Ernst, so has Obama considered resigning over this? Because he really should, with the dang tone. They would have lost their ever-loving minds. And, like, let's not pretend that they wouldn't. I'm not saying the right wouldn't lose it, no matter who they say that to. It's just not something you ask a president when there hasn't been any proof of real wrongdoing that can be directly tied to him. No matter how much you think that's not. And in Obama's case, actually, there was. You know, the approval of Fast and Furious was just a nightmare that started a little bit earlier, but certainly was propelled throughout his administration, and that was on his head, man. And it was very hard to deny that. And, you know, so that would be something that would be like someone from Fox, or not even Fox. It'd be like Alex Jones being like, so is he going to resign? And they would lose their ever-loving minds. And, of course, this is like, well, why didn't she answer her better? I'm like, oh, my gosh. She's like, of course not. And I think that's a ridiculous question. They're like, is it a ridiculous question? All these little blue checks on Twitter and Facebook, like in their little bubble being like, is it ridiculous, though? Is it? He really should. The worst president in all of history. And da-da-da-da-da. All based on their pure emotional hatred of him. They just are so childish, and it's so predictable.
The funny thing is, we're so busy talking about this Stormy Daniels stuff and everything else and you know how the tariffs were going to destroy the economy, that nobody's talking about the fact that China's basically coming back to the table and starting to work things out with us because they don't like the idea of the tariffs.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a fan of the tariffs, but it's kind of what I've started wondering about the entire time. It just seems like he's kind of using that as a hammer to bring people back to the table. And I don't know what's going to happen with it. All I'm going to say is every time I've ever thought that this man's going to make something blow up in our faces, it seems to go the other way. So, I mean, I don't know. And I don't know what's going to come with all this Cohen stuff and Stormy Daniels and everything else. I don't know if there was some sort of violation of attorney-client privilege because I don't know what it is that they were looking for. I don't really care. Until we know that something is there, I'm working on trying to keep the country from killing itself, which is getting harder and harder because everybody's drawing these hard and fast battle lines, and they don't even care what they're fighting about anymore. Just as soon as you disagree with them, you're an enemy, period, and you need to die. That's not what this country was ever founded on. I mean, and I say this a lot, but I don't know how we got here, and I don't know how we come back from this at this point. It's no different than what you were talking about earlier with Twitter. It's tribalism run rampant because it's not one side or the other. It's both sides. They're spending hours combing through people's timelines to find things from 5, 6, 7 years from like the very beginning of Twitter. Going,
because they're mad at them because they don't like what their dissenting opinion because they use the word, you know, bitch in the disagreement. I mean, it's just insane.
I mean, you know, maybe you're not a fan of people using vulgar language, but, you know, that's part of why the First Amendment exists. And I get Twitter's a private platform, but that's why tons of people are trying out other private platforms.
But, like, so here's the thing, though. On something like Twitter, like okay, if someone comes onto your timeline, if someone comments on your post, on your tweet, and starts using that kind of language, you have every right to tell them to step off. And even then, if they continue to do it, then block them or mute them and move on with your life. This vindictive, you know, agenda thing is just insane for being offended over something. And a lot of times it's some of the same people that always mock the other side for being offended and sensitive about stuff. But, you know, if you are going out on Twitter and you are commenting on someone else's feed, on someone else's tweets, and they start cussing at you, like, sorry, suck it up, Buttercup. Again, get yourself out of the thread, mute the thread, block that person, and you can get rid of whatever you see as nasty in your life. If we're talking about death threats and we're talking about really inappropriate things, or posting, pictures of you if they're combing through your stuff and trying to find your child to use against you and all that kind of thing, report them. But if we're talking about you get offended because you're like, you don't need to use that kind of language, then just don't interact with those people. It's not hard to figure out who uses that language and who doesn't, because usually all you have to do is go back a few tweets and find a word. I mean, no one is coming on my TL that follows me thinking that they're going to get a cleanly scrubbed situation here. They all know that I have a little bit of a sailor mouth. And especially when I'm annoyed about something going on and I'm commenting on one of the hot topics of the day, I'm going to let a few words fly. This is not a secret. It's not something that's hard to find out about me. So if you don't want any of that, if you don't want to see any of that, if that offends you, then don't come to me. It's very simple.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm just over the whole censorship thing anyway. I mean, and that was kind of, and we've talked about it before, it was a hard thing for me to learn, because when I first started running my own Facebook page, the first time that anybody said anything that irritated me, I was like, boop, you're out of here. And then I just started realizing that, sitting in an echo chamber all day long doesn't fix anything. Yeah, it's great to sit around and talk to people that think exactly how you think and have all of your ideas validated, but that's how people get crazy. That's like when you brought up Alex Jones, if he was the guy sitting at the White House going, do you think Barack Obama should resign? And, oh, by the way, fluoride makes frogs gay. Yeah, that would be, but that's what happens. And the sad thing is, what I figured out is that's what everybody likes. Like, not to talk about KOKC again, but Todd Tucker, the programming director and the morning show guy, he actually has people that he has libertarians, liberals, conservatives all on the show, and he takes crap all day long. Why'd you bring that stupid liberal on your show? I turn him off. I turn your show off every time you bring them on. And he's like, that's great. You don't like listening to them? You don't have to. But we can't fix everything if we're only listening to each other, because there are people that have good ideas across all political spectrums, but the problem is the people that get the attention are the crazy ones, and that's happening on all sides. That's the problem.
Yeah, and I think it's also a little bit of like failing to realize that when we start slinging around things like, you hate children, you hate women, you hate this, you hate that, and then the other side's like, no, you do, because of this and this and that. And we're all guilty of it to a certain extent, and it's not that there's not kind of a place for that sometimes, especially with certain people. But the other issue is that we really are failing to see here that we have a lot of common beliefs and goals as far as like, no, we don't want more poverty. Yes, we want better education. Yes, we want a bigger middle class. We want to keep more money. We want them to make more money. We just have very different ideologies about how to achieve those goals. But what we are losing sight of is the fact that we have any common goals to begin with. And that's the big problem to me, is when we have lost sight of, and most people that you're arguing with truly don't think you can even relate to what it is that the end goal of what they want for people in this country, and you're trying to tell them you do, and they're saying, no, you hate those people, you want to keep them down, you want to do this, you want to do that, or you're saying the same thing right back to them, and you're disbelieving that they could even possibly have, even if if you think they have a misguided belief in the Democrats, or belief in government help, belief in big government in general, belief in socialist policies. If you think they have this misguided belief, but that they're still, if you can't see past that, so, and still just even have the belief that they might have the good intention of wanting something better for a lot of people in this country, then we're never going to be able to relate. And we used to know that. We used to remember that. We just have different means to the ends. Same ends in a lot of ways, but different means to the ends. Now, some of the ends are changing. I'm not going to deny that, especially on the left. Some of those ends are changing. They used to say they only wanted this. Now they want that. They're grabbing for more. And I get that. But again, like you said, a lot of that is the extremists. It's not as much your regular everyday Democrat that you're running into on the street. But we have to get back to where we remember we're all human beings. For the most part, we all love America. And we all love the people in this country. And we don't want to see them hurting. We don't want to see them suffer. We want our children to have a better future. And we want our politicians and our government to be less corrupt and to spend less of our money, even if they don't call it limited government. Most people still, when they get that paycheck, they want them to spend less of their money. And those commonalities can bring the average person back together again. I don't expect it to bring the talking heads and the screeching, yelling, loudmouths on either side together. But I think it can bring actual communities together.
No, I completely agree. All right, so one last thing, and then we got to start working on getting out of here. Were you aware that Britain is now initiating gun, or not there? So they've already banned guns, right? So now they're fighting for knife control.
Yes. Oh, my Lord. That tweet from the mayor of London that said a knife is never, there's no excuse. It's never necessary. I was like, every man I know carries a knife, I think. If they don't carry a gun, too, they usually carry both.
I was going to say, we usually carry both. But,
we got on the way, my dad accidentally left his knife in his pocket when we were going through airport security coming back from Florida. And he was like, damn it. He was like, couldn't figure out what was going off. And then I was like, oh, crap. So we had to leave it at the gate. Leave it at security. But it's that mindless because it's just a normal thing and he puts in his pocket every day when he wakes up.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's actually one of the things that kind of broke me of carrying ones because I used to fly a lot. But I have one and it's in the console of my car. So that way I always know where it is. That way I don't accidentally leave it in my pocket, but I know where it is if I need it.
Here's the thing is I have been known to have, a paring knife in my purse, sometimes a steak knife, not a steak knife, a butcher knife, not a huge one, but a Sudoku knife or something in my car. Because especially as Ben has been younger, I've got, I'm cutting up apples on the fly as we're going and we travel a lot. And so I'm always carrying an ice chest full of stuff with us whenever we travel because we have family all over. And so it's to be able to cut cheese and meats and, like I said, fruit or vegetables or whatever else. And I'll never forget the time I was pulled over and the officer said, do you have a weapon? I went, no. And then I went, oh. And this was when I was much younger. It was before I used to carry a firearm all the time. And I said, no. And I went, oh, actually, in the side of my seat here, there's a butcher knife. And he went, a butcher knife? And I said, yeah. And he goes, how long? And I showed him. And it was actually a big butcher knife. And he said, okay, just step out of the car and I'm going to grab it. And I said, okay. And he didn't think I was a threat, but I was just like, oh, shoot. And then we had a big laugh about it. He's like, why are you carrying this in your car? And I was like, okay, I am a restaurant manager and caterer. And I have to often deliver cakes places. And then as soon as I show up, it'll be at places like parks and things like that. And they don't have a knife to cut with. So I often keep random knives in the car so that I have them on the fly when they're like, oh, thanks for delivering this beautiful cake. Oh, shoot, we don't have a knife. Anyways, he got a good laugh out of it. But just simple things like that I'm like, how dare you tell me what I do and do not need, what is and isn't necessary. A knife was absolutely necessary to me to carry with me daily for most of my life.
So, the thing that struck me is because he specifically said a knife is never necessary. How the hell are you going to eat a steak?
I know. I loved all the memes about London restaurants and showing up to try to have dinner in the UK, and they were really comical. I appreciated all the artists that put in some time behind those.
But yeah, so, for those of you, because we talk about this often, in most things, it seems like for some reason we're about 10 to 15 years behind Great Britain. I don't know why it is that we fought a war to separate ourselves from these people, and then we seem to be kind of following them down the same path, just about 15 steps behind them. So that really needs to change for you millennials that might be listening. I know we don't have very many, but Jen's technically a millennial, so I'm hoping she's grabbing at least 2 or 3. So can we stop trying to do everything that Great Britain's doing? Because if we try to ban knives, I'm out. I don't know where I'm going. I might, hop a rocket and try to make it to Mars or something, but I'm out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know. It's just so crazy. And the fact that I've even seen some of my, some followers, some mutual followers that are like, or we mutually follow each other, like, that are from Europe or specifically the UK, that tend to be more conservative for a European, but are still just so indoctrinated with, that kind of government control and thought. And to see them, first of all, get really defensive about it and then be really sensitive. But they're so defensive that they're like, why are you hating on my country? Like, they're just trying to help people because we've had this problem and that problem. I'm like, right there just shows me like kind of how, brainwashed you are by all of this. Like your immediate response was to defend the government, was to defend them from taking away more of your rights. It's like, well, but I mean, really, like most people live in the city, so they don't really. And I'm like, okay, most people, but here again, you are like, you're more conservative than most of the people that you know, which is why you found a home on conservative Twitter, American conservative Twitter with us. Yet, like, your first instinct here was still to defend the government and to say it was necessary and to justify it. And you're just wrong, bro. Sorry.
No worries. All right, so one last thing, and then we'll start giving out social media stuff. So I just saw this article on Town Hall. Apparently, Facebook's largest Black Lives Matter page has apparently been found to be fake. That's kind of interesting.
Oh, boy.
So it says, after the deaths of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, Eric Garner in New York City, and Freddie Gray in Baltimore, Maryland in 2014, there was a national conversation about racial profiling and police brutality. Black Lives Matter was born. There were multiple protests. Was it a conversation that was needed? Maybe. Some cases were acts of self-defense. Then Ferguson officer Darren Wilson's shooting of Brown was ruled an act of self-defense by local and federal authorities. But Eric Garner's a different case. And then it goes on to say, I'm trying to see where it actually talks about the page itself. So it says, I'm all for free speech, even speech I detest. Black Lives Matter was just another exercise in that right. At the same time, we now know that the largest Facebook group that supposedly pushed this movement's agenda was not real. It was fake, run by a man in Australia who collected at least $100,000 in donations. This revelation also highlights another embarrassing oversight for Facebook, whose founder, Mark Zuckerberg, or as I like to call him, Zuckernerd, is due to testify before Congress, and this actually came out yesterday, I guess, because it says due to testify tomorrow over data sharing abuses. So we have Russians colluding and Australia colluding? I'm confused.
Yeah, oh boy. That Oh man, I mean, there had been a lot of talk back in the day, and it was like, ew, right-wing conspiracy nuts. There had been a lot of talk back in the day that there was a lot of fraudulent activity within the Black Lives Matter movement online. I'm not saying people that actually necessarily that went and marched and that organized in real life groups, because I know some, and they were very real. But that there was a lot of fraudulent activity online. In the name of Black Lives Matter. And it got very, very clearly by anyone that that wouldn't happen, that wouldn't do that. It revealed that there were issues there, not quite to this scale, but still, there were issues in this. And I'm going to see.
All right, I don't mean to cut you off, but that dreaded connection issue we were having earlier seems to kind of be back again. You're starting to sound like Charlie Brown's parents.
Oh boy.
We're actually long anyway.
It's late anyways.
All right, so why don't you remind folks where it is that they can hang out with you as long as your internet connection holds on long enough for them to hear you.
Yeah. Jay Homestead on Twitter, where I spend most of my time. JR Homestead on Facebook. And check out MisfitsPolitics.com. Tomorrow night is the Misfit Gift Challenge, so be there, be square.
You're going to get locked again. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so anyway, I am Rick Robinson. You can follow along with me at Radio Host Rick on Twitter. You can follow along with Rick Robinson on Facebook. And you can shoot me an email if you're old school, rick@klrnradio.com. Again, if you're just tuning in, there will not be an America Off the Rails tonight. I am fighting a migraine, and I'm about to get away from these fluorescent lights that are in the area that I lovingly call my studio, which is actually just like one half of my utility room. Anyway, we'll see you guys. I'll be back with you tomorrow night. I will be doing America Off the Rails tomorrow night. Also, we'll be producing the Conservative Curmudgeon radio show, so make sure you tune in for that. And, of course, after that, we'll have Justice POV. We have a new show moving to Wednesday nights at 10 Eastern, but I haven't been told when they're going to start yet, so stay tuned for that. And then, actually, I'm still trying to work out something that I just found out about today that I'm not going to talk about yet until I know for sure it's going to happen, but I'm kind of excited. All right, so anyway.
I know.
Yeah, I know you do, but that's why we're not saying anything yet. All right, so we will talk to you guys later. Jen and I will be back with you Thursday. As far as I know, we're all good for Thursday, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yep,
cool.
Good to go.
So we will see you guys then. Because I'm not doing an America Off the Rails tonight, that's one reason why this ran a bit long, and it's also why we decided not to take any commercial breaks. So you guys got to put up with us for over an hour, pretty much nonstop. Some of you right now are saying, please stop, where's the ear bleach? So we're going to cut you some slack and let you have your ears back. We'll talk to you guys later. Take care. God bless.